Hey there, everybody. I am joined by Karl, and we have a fun conversation ahead of us. So, we're going to talk about the 20 dark side open cards that you need to know. So, these are virtual cards. I think this is something I've wanted to do for a while, kind of get into virtual cards and how to play in the open format. So, this video is intended for folks that are coming in who maybe played retro formats or familiar with Star Wars CCG or just don't know how to get into virtual cards. So, this is a list, 20 cards roughly ranked, but we're hoping this can just sort of be like an entry. And Karl, I'm sorry, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, thanks for having me on. This list was like, as a new player who just picked it up like a year ago, these were just cards I thought would be interesting for someone to come in who's like trying to pick up the game. There's probably a lot of things wrong with this list that other people can point out, but this was just 20 cards I thought would be useful for a new player. So
yeah, and we're going to do this for light side as well, and then we'll also have some kind of miscellaneous, but we thought 20 was just a good number to start off with. So this is something you could supplement in, because right now I think with 20 V card sets, there's like what, 800 V cards?
Almost 900. And
almost 900.
Yeah, and we've been working on a project to actually try to create a resource or a guide for new players, like trying to come up with some ranking system. Like if I'm brand new, how do I
like a tier? Yeah. So this can hopefully be a starting kind of path for folks that are interested in V cards, but just seems so daunting. So let's get into it. So you want to start with the sort of number 20 on your list?
Yeah. So number 20 on my list was Seal the Bridge, which is a virtualized or version of a card like We Must Accelerate Our Plans, which is a decipher card, but it's kind of a budget version. So I wanted to include it on the list because there's price is sometimes a huge barrier to entry. And if you're trying to build a physical deck to play and not just on GAMP or online, this is probably a really good card because it pulls the blockade flagship or it can pull an effect. It's just, not as good as We Must Accelerate Our Plans, but I think this is just like a really good card.
Super basic dummy question. The triangle is search and the upside triangle is just for folks that have never seen. This is one of the things virtual cards do. They streamline this, right?
The up triangle means that you can upload it into your hand, and then the down triangle is download. So you download and put it into play.
Okay.
So that's what these little icons mean. So use 3/4 to upload a Nemoidian or an effect of any kind, and then or download the blockade flagship bridge.
Okay, got it.
So the next card is, I thought a list should have a vehicle. So I thought I think a really good one is Blizzard Scout 1 that may add a pilot, has a permanent pilot that adds ability of 2, and can move as a react.
So this is just a good little lesson as well. So this is an example of a V card that is just putting text over an existing card, right? So this isn't new. This is just, that one was in Hoth, right? So
that one was in Hoth, and I don't know if you're still showing, but this is what it would look like. There's just a little slip you put in underneath, right?
Yep.
So what I liked about this card is that if it's with another AT-AT, it can cancel an opponent's game text. So that's something that's useful, especially for a new player. Like there's mechanics to like blank the text of another character. So it'll come back up, but I just thought that that's an interesting. Plus, understanding how vehicles work is just another nuance of the game. So made my list.
Cool.
The next one is Moment of Triumph, which is a lost or starting interrupt. And what this is a card that is built for a decipher objective, route tier operations, which has been virtualized. And this is probably one of the top decks in the dark meta right now. So I thought having a card that kind of represents that is interesting. Plus, it's a lost or starting interrupt, so it's only specific to this deck. It's starting piece that if you're playing ROPS, which is the shorter version of route tier operations, you get to deploy Insignificant Rebellion and 2 additional effects on the table that deploy for free and always immune to alter. And then you can put this card in your hand to start the game. And then on your first turn, you can play it lost to download Iradu. I guess this little icon is that specific to set 17, so virtual set 17.
Yeah,
you can download that version. So
cool. All right. It's interesting that route tier ops, which is like just a decipher objective, has made a comeback. It's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and that's something, you know, the PC has done with the virtual set is they'll sometimes design helper cards to make like decks that, you know, are clunky or objectives that were clunky, like give them things to help and make it more playable, more viable.
Hmm.
There's a lot of debate among players, like, are some things too fast? And, you know, credit to design in the PC, because they'll change things as they need to just try and have stable metas. So I think that's an interesting thing.
Yeah. So that was 17. So I think this is what next we got number 16 up.
Yeah, so the next one's a personal. So this is Shadow Collective. This was an objective that was created. It centers around Maul, and I actually recorded a cool deck tech video that I tried to be funny. I don't think I was, but you know, personally just love this. This is the deck I kind of dove into when I started, and it's just a fun way to play gangsters and shoot things. So I like that, and it's just this deck will always have a soft spot for me because it's just a lot of fun to play. Next is Security Precautions, which is a decipher card that was virtualized. And basically, it's a way to speed up the game by giving you some activation early. So it's an effect that you can start. You get to play it on any location, and your force generation is +1. The rest of the text doesn't really come up in most play, but just that +1 to start the game. As someone, you know, Matt, I'm sure you've played retro. Some of
Yeah.
the games, your opening turn is just draw cards.
Yeah. It's like, you know, you activate 3 force and it's like,
Mhm.
I'm going to draw 2 cards and leave 1. You know, it's
Yeah.
rather slow. So I guess
Yes.
you could start this with prepared defenses, right? As one of your
Mhm.
3 because it's immune to alter.
Yeah.
And I think the original security precautions was what, like an anti-hidden base card? Or no, I
I
think
think it was actually. I'd have to pull it up, but I'm completely honest. I'm still learning some of the decipher cards. So,
no,
but
it's like you're talking about like thousands of cards and
yeah,
like but no, I like this because I do think it just does it's simple, but it's one of these little tech things, right, that you can just do and it is gonna like cumulatively add quite a bit right to
yeah.
the game.
Like what you can do on your first turn if you're activating 5 force versus 4, you think one doesn't matter, but in the beginning of the game, every force at the start matters.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, by like turn 7, you're gonna be like, oh, I have way too much force. But like in the beginning, it's like
Yeah. The next is Imperial Decree, and this is I put in because what this can do is that when you lose force, except from force range, battle, or your own card, you can reduce that by the number of battlegrounds you occupy. So a lot of light side decks will have ways to cause non-force drain damage to you, like we call them pinging. Uh, we have a plan, for
Mhm.
example, is a decipher card that you lose 2 force for each location that Panaka or Amidala occupy. That could be 4
Right.
force in a turn. This is a way to reduce that down to 1.
Or like
So,
order to engage would be another one where you have to have a
mhm,
battle, right? Or you lose 3
yep.
force, right?
And so I like that this one's here, and it's often a card that you're debating. Like the original Imperial Decree is really good too and has play. So it's just I think a really fun design. Plus the image is awesome. So
Yeah, no, that's like a great picture. Oh, I love Orsing. So this is
yeah, I think this one is that they took a really kind of niche character and gave it an ability that it's a really good include in a lot of different decks. Bounty hunter assassin, and she has a permanent weapon, which if you're not familiar, you may hear the term EPP.
mhm,
I'm sure that if you've watched enough of Matt's videos, you know the origin of why it's called EPP, but it has a permanent weapon. And the fact that, you know, can draw 2 destiny against Jedi, you know, I think it's a really well designed card. It's, you know, she draws battle destiny. Forfeit could be higher, but I really liked it. Plus, you know, you can have the AI image too. Fun card. The next one is a used interrupt that just has a lot of text and can be daunting to read, but felt like it was worth including because, you know, if you have a character that's have to be hit, you can use a force, or if it was by, you know, a permanent weapon like with Aura just talked about, for the remainder of turn, you don't reduce the forfeit. you can't use it to satisfy attrition. But if you have a lone character and someone comes down with a bunch of things, hits that character, and their forfeits reduced to 0, you have the potential for a lot of overflow. This is one way to kind of mitigate that and reduce it. Also cancels disarmed or react, and does give you the ability in some limited circumstance to transport characters. So it's like a combo Ellis with like a narrower use, because you can only use it during your move phase. So
okay. There's just like so many like ors. It's usually just like 6 different, I guess 4 different things, right?
Yeah, and it's really interesting because like some Decipher cards, when the game started, I'm sure you can just kind of look at it as like very specific. I do this or maybe this, like it has 2 options. Some of the virtual cards do like 5 things because they're trying to create small answers to make things like balanced, to give plays option and, not, I think, make certain matchups auto losses, right? Like it just gives you some more play. Shadows of the Empire. This is an example, and the reason I included this is like taking a Decipher objective, Agents of the Black Sun, and making it really go. So you can deploy it on, if you're playing Black Sun, you deploy on table, you can use 1 force to download the Imperial Square. So that first turn, you can get more activation. And then once per turn, if Emperor on Coruscant, may drop the top card of your force pile. So just a way to, accelerate cards into your hand at not the draw phase, right? And the last thing is that if you occupy 3 battlegrounds, you make your opponent lose 1 force. And this was probably intended to just increase the damage output of Black Sun, because all the sites that you would pull normally are just drain 1, drain 1, drain 1. So this is just another way to get damage in. So really well designed. Repurposes a very nice image of, because this is Visage.
Right. Which is like a great card. If you're like, I think Bring Him Before Me, maybe you're going to be using Visage.
Hunt Down.
So I get those 2 confused because they're kind of similar.
Yeah. And Matt, I guess I should have said, like, if you see text under here at the bottom, that's the underlying card.
That confused me for a long time because like sometimes it's like a random card. You're like, wait, why is that? But in this case, they just want to use the image, right?
So not to give the scroll effect, but like the reason I had listed Seal the Bridge is because we must accelerate our plans. Really expensive card nowadays.
Yep.
This was an attempt to try and make budget-friendly versions, and so oppressive enforcement from Special Edition, not that hard to get a hold of nowadays.
Yeah, that's like a 10-cent card or something, right? It's like a common.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're at our top 10 maybe now.
Yeah, so this is where I started pulling in, because it's tough because some of the virtual cards, there's a lot of little changes that design has made over time to like help decks out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this one is for carbon testing chambers, or
the carbon free, getting Han frozen, right? I forget what exactly.
Yeah, so that's really difficult in the Decipher rules, right? So what they've done through including Boba Fett's blaster rifle V and the carbon testing console, the device, they've made it a way that you can actually flip the objective turn 1. And this card is what really makes that happen, because used for the remainder of your turn, your bounty hunter draws a battle destiny if unable to otherwise, and moves for free during your move phase. So this has helped CCT get to where they can get to the flip condition and have my favorite decoration, which is the really powerful side of that, on the table turn 1. And it just kind of gets it to where that objective no longer requires them playing a character to Cloud City to then be frozen. Like there's ways to do that. Plus they just had Jabba's prize. Like there's just been little increments over time that made this deck go. So that's why I included it on the list.
Yeah. Cool. That objective, I always wish I could make it work.
It's really good. And I've never actually beat it in competitive play. So, still working on that one. The next was another combo card, which, Decipher released a bunch of really powerful combo cards starting in, was Coruscant the first set where they had like the
I think Reflections 2. Reflections 2 had a bunch.
Yeah. So this one is just one that it does a lot of different things. For the remainder of your turn, your opponent may not cancel your battle destiny draws or cancel weapon destiny draws. So there's a lot of light side disruption. Wedge, Rogue Squadron leader can cancel battle destinies. There's other different ways. So that's kind of useful. And then if you have 2 battlegrounds on table for the remainder of your turn, your total power is +1. That's kind of just a secondary or third use, so to speak. Can cancel. It could be worse or neighboring leads. And then if your opponent does not occupy a battleground site, or if Mana Fades on the table, you can cancel Projection of Skywalker. So this card does a lot of like useful things. It can be included in a lot of different decks. Like it's not one that was made just specifically for a deck. Plus it's a Destiny 5 and it's used, so those are always good. Point Man. This was an example of a Cloud City rare that I don't think did a lot of useful things originally, but now what you can do is you can move your trooper as a react to a battle where you have a leader, or during any draw phase, place a card from your hand under your use pile to take any one card from your hand from the force pile and then reshuffle. So how many times do you know the card you need is the last card in your force pile and you're not sure if you want to draw it, right? Or you just have a bunch of cards in your force pile, or you have a really high destiny card you don't need. This is a way to put that back. And I think sometimes being able to get that key card without having to draw a bunch is really powerful. So this is one that sees a lot of play in a bunch of different decks. And then it has a lost function that during a battle at a site can cancel Keep Your Eyes Open. So this may be the fact that I like playing Shadow Collective and shooting things. I don't like it when people cancel my ability to shoot things. So I kind of like this card.
Are we in our top 5 now, I think?
I think we are at our top 5.
Okay.
Forlom with concussion rifle. This is
a funny image. I've never seen this image. I've only seen, this is the AI. Okay, that's why.
This is the AI.
I mean, it's a great card. The non-V is a great card, right? So.
It's amazing. You can cancel the text of a character, right? And what this one does is that, one of the best things to be able to do is to cycle cards from your hand back into your deck. It increases your ability to track destiny. And light side always had an advantage because they had 3PO with part showing. Decipher card from Tatooine?
Yep.
So this is the dark side version. So I thought that is just, but it's interesting because it's one that you just mentioned. Forlom is really good card for like CCT or Court of a Vile Gangster. So you have to sometimes think which version you want to put in. So next, I Am Your Father, and I picked the AI. I think this is a deck that can really make Vader go, and it's thematic. It allows you to get Vader's lightsaber because you can deploy it. This is where that, download it here, or you can lose 1 force to deploy it from your lost pile. So it's just a way to always get a saber back. And then whenever a lightsaber swung by Vader hits a character, and your opponent loses 1 force. So the image is just beautiful, and it came out last year. This is the AI, but just beautiful image.
It's nice to be able to find Vader's lightsaber. I feel like finding sabers is so frustrating. It's just like that general tutor function. So
yeah,
interesting.
And next is, well, I just talked about how Vader goes. This is Darth Vader, Emperor's Enforcer.
Very cool card. Very cool card.
I think I put it on here for the image, and this one's just beautiful. But Vader is such I mean, he's the best villain in Star Wars. So there's a bunch of different versions, and as again, someone who's new trying to build up a collection, it was really easy to get access to this version of it, but it's just really good. You get to initiate battles for free. One thing they've done is updated. So this little icon here means that he's a pilot. And if there's a number afterwards, it means that adds that power to power. So he's a pilot who adds 3 to total power.
Which is just like such a nice way of taking out a sentence, right? It's like taking out one sentence.
Yeah, because if you talk to people who work on design, they say like you're really constrained by the space of the card, right?
Yeah.
You cancel an opponent's text of an ability less than 4 at the same site for a turn. So that's really powerful. Again, like blanking a character that could be a key part of their strategy. Sometimes good. And then is immune to Clash of Sabers, sorry about the mess, and immune to attrition less than 6. So Clash and Sorry About the Mess are 2 light side like staples for mains decks, and I just think having that doesn't work here is really good text. So
yeah, it's good immunity to attrition as well. Like less than 6 is a pain in the butt.
Mm-hmm. Next is I want that map. So this is an objective all about episode 7 and Kylo Ren, and I put it on here because it's an objective that gives you access to 2 theaters, both space and Jakku, so sites. Has some restrictions, and plus it's one that's been tinkered with quite a bit. But this is why I think any list about virtual cards, knowing the brand new virtual objective is really important. But I thought this one's really, really well designed, well done. It's been tinkered with, but it's just a good deck, and it's always one that's like always a consideration for people. So
cool. All right, top 2, I think. I'm losing count here, but
I think we might have 3.
Okay,
maybe top 2. We'll find out. Sith Fury. This one just recently got changed, and the change is kind of important. If you just drew a character for Destiny, you can play this card to have a choice. You can either take the card into hand, or you can cancel that Destiny and cause a redraw. So how often are you like at a critical point and you want to hit, or you want to hit somebody and you draw a 1? So this gives you some options. And then the lost function is you can use 4 force to take a card into hand. So if there's a key character that you lost, it gives you a way to get that back. So retrieval for Darkside is pretty limited. So getting a key card back, I think, is kind of important. So it's a consideration. Like it's often on, if it's not in a deck, it's on that list of cards. Is this like my 61st, 62nd, so on and so forth. So that's why I included it. Top 2. So Lord Maul with lightsaber. It's a dark Jedi with a permanent weapon that can add to the Force strain. Now, there's no immunity to attrition, but you can play another card to give him immunity to attrition. 7 power, 6 ability for 6 force. Really well designed card, and somewhat an easy to access card in terms of just cost if you're trying to build physical decks. So love the image. Just thought it was a really good card to include.
Yeah, that's a really great use of like a normal card, like or whatever, the Maul's lightsaber. That's a fine card, but it's a $2 card or something. But it's a really cool image.
Yeah, and then I'm sorry, we have 4. We have one more. Slip Sliding Away, another starting interrupt that I think can help a lot of decks get going. Because you can deploy, if you deploy to site it, except for the Imperial Square that has exactly 2 dark side force icons and no other locations, you can deploy a related or mobile battleground site and up to 3 effects that are always immune to alter. Place interrupt in the last one. So just a starting interrupt that I think can allow for a lot of creativity in deck design that doesn't have to be solely based on an objective. So
yeah, I was about to say, so you're not going to be playing objective most likely if you're playing this.
Sometimes you are. So Slip Sliding Away is the starting objective I use in Shadow Collective because it only lets you play 1 site, and then playing this interrupt allows you to get an additional site and 3 effects. So that's why it can. And some decks have starting interrupts that are specifically designed for them, but this gives you some flexibility. But as you said, you may not have an objective, but it just gives you options.
Interesting. I mean, it's better than just like the starting defense. So
Right. And there may be others, but this was just kind of like, again, trying to put this list together for people who are just starting. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming up. Oh, sorry, one more.
we have one more,
Oh,
probably
sorry.
the most important one on here. And of course, that was the one image I didn't get. Force push, probably
Force
the
push.
number one. Yeah. Once per game, choose during battle, use 2 force to target your Dark Jedi and opponent's character of equal or lesser ability. Both targets are excluded from the battle, or this is the key thing. Or exchange 2 cards from hand for any 1 card in your force pile or shuffle. It goes back to that you need a key card. This is a way to get that card and gives you the ability to put some cards back at any point in your turn. So if you know a card you wanted is there at the beginning of your turn when you activated your force, you can play this card, get that out. And then it does have, a limited secondary use. But this is, I think, an example of a card that was designed. It's something you think about putting in all your decks, and probably took a Reflections 3 card that was probably not as useful and made it something that's a staple for almost any deck. So that was my last one.
The force push. That's one of those ones where it's like this random Reflections 3 card that's like, this is $40, and that's the reason it's $40 is because
exactly. And so
deck,
it's useful. It can be thought of in any deck, even a deck that doesn't play Jedis. You maybe need that because you just need that 1 card. So
yeah. Well, Karl, thanks so much for doing this, and we're gonna do a light side version of this, and then we'll kind of do some, maybe other associated cards. But thanks so much for coming on and walking us through the top 20. So stay tuned for another series. Kind of final thoughts.
I'm looking forward to hearing from other players how their list of 20 cards would go. And I'd just like to say, this was just, as someone new, this was just my thought. And hopefully this excites people to start playing the game, something I've really picked up and enjoyed doing. So
yeah, I would love to get into open. And it's like lists like this that help me just understand, like, these are the building blocks. Maybe we can even do an open deck tech. That might be kind of fun to do. Just something like, here's the Thrawn objective, or here's the whatever, the something kind of thematic. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll catch everyone next time.